All right, I want to thank everybody for tuning in live to Blue Nose Arts and Ability Film Festival for our poetry night tonight. We have an amazing lineup of artists who are going to be presenting some beautiful work tonight, so hopefully you enjoy it all, but I wanted to start off with the land acknowledgement. So I wanted to say that we are on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and I just want to acknowledge that and understand that we are thankful and blessed to be here and being able to use this land. So I want to thank the people and then thank the land that we are on. So I wanted to start off with giving a little bit of a poem here that I've written today around community. So, what is community to you? And what connections can you grab? And would you lend a hand to those who don't have? Fighting for a crumb became numb. It's so sad in a world where there's enough to touch every hand. I don't get it. I expected a resistance, not acceptance of conditions that we're forced to live in. And I know y'all think I'm tripping, but please listen to these children. They know more than you think based off the states and conditions of the world. And it's our job to make it a safe place where people don't judge or throw hate off a skin shade. Let's all work together and build our reality. Each one teach one. It's type of mentality. See, I want that old school vibe where community thrives. Something's got to give. I'm seeing too much divide. It's ego and pride has us running to hide. Forced to state the truth, we need to open our eyes. We used to play outside without a worry in sight. Neighbors had our backs. We was enjoying the night. But see, now things have switched. What happened to the days where we would find a wall and play pitch? Nowadays, we're only focused on how to get rich. What is lacking is the passion. Please tell me it still exists. Because I want to be hopeful, smile and be cheery. But the world showed its color, so being vulnerable is scary. We all have an impact on the life of another. Question is, what value do you put on your brother? Mother, sister, daughter, son, grandparents, and others. If you're under my flock, please ring my number. When trouble comes calling, I'll be right there to answer. So when I think of community, this is my answer. I have another poem that I did based about Africville and just about the connections that we have to that land. People call you a radical when you speak on black issues, but are we supposed to ignore the blood and bruised tissue on the backs of black men? Now let's not pretend. We were happy back home for we were stole from that land. You can look around the globe but can't find a clean hand because when the slaves weren't enough, they drew lines in the sand. Put up borders with the orders to take what they can. If them people resist, we'll make them pay for that plan. You can even look to our own province. Not a single weekend can make up for the losses. Africville was killed in the name of city progress. Urban renewal, few decisions that were nonsense. 1947, named industrial land. But what about the people? Too bad they need the land. Plus, the lack of services makes conditions worse than an eyesore for the city, but did they see Sunday service? Africville was packed all together for a purpose, but they destroyed that at night like some thieves out lurking. Now, I'm not trying to preach. See, I'm just trying to teach about an issue for my race that cuts so deep. Declared what happened in human rights violation. Family and residents still sue for reparations. Stay patient. The pain ain't over. We must persist. Cousin Eddie gonna fight till the day he don't exist. Largest protest in Canada's what it is. You can go and ask the people what this city did. Bulldozed the homes after making some bad deals. One by one, they would go, being left turned into fear. That the city would just take it, gave up and shed a tear. They tore the church down so God wouldn't hear the prayers. This ain't fair. Best believe the city owes, because in the hearts of the people, the roses still grow in Africville. All right. Thank you for listening to me. I know I struggled a little bit through it, but thank you. This is out of my element. I haven't done it for a long time, so thank you for being so patient with me. Thank you to our visitors at home. I also wanted to take this time to now throw to a beautiful piece that my 16-year-old daughter, Savannah Gannon, has brought for us. It's a beautiful piece, really exploring her own heart, exploring how society views people who have mental health struggles and mental health concerns. So with that being said, let's cue over to that.
Let me introduce you to the inner me. The drunk driver in my head, I feel like I'm on my deathbed. Every time she takes a drink, I feel like I'm on the brink of losing control. The wheel pulls me right. I feel like I'm in my fight or flight. Get out of my way. There's no way I'm going to stay. I'm hearing you say that I'm making this up, that my life is not that rough, that I need to get tough, get tougher, get stronger. Stop wandering, don't ponder, don't think, what good is that? I won't accept where I'm at. I want to be humble, but I know there'll be stumbles. I'm just a human, a kid. I know what I did. You don't need to remind me when I live it every day. I do my best to listen to what you tell me, to say what you say. But easy don't describe me. Tell me to relax just one more time. My brain don't work like that. I'm not doing okay, and I'm certainly not fine. I forget things all the time, but it's not my fault. My brain takes a beating. Some days it's full out of salt. Why can't you see me? I'm standing right in front of your face. Let me show you where I live instead of putting me in my place. Take these pills, they'll help you. They'll move the mountains in front of you. A new me? For real? How you thinking that I feel? I might be broken a little, but I'm not a machine. I'm not a robot or make-believe. Most times I just want to scream. I scream till my throat bleeds. I rage until my soul concedes. I want you around because I hate being alone. I'm not fake, I'm not plastic, I'm not phony or a drone. I have a heart and it beats. Most days it pounds. I feel like a fighter going into the 16th round. A trap that won't release, won't let me live in peace. Something won't let me be, and it's just stolen everything from me. My best days aren't always good, but I try more than you know, more than I show. I'm always wanting to grow. Just stop! Silence is scary, but it's what I really need. My head is too loud, my ears want to bleed. My eyes get all heavy, my legs get unsteady. The biggest message for you is I'm just not ready. Don't try to rush me, pay attention, you'll see. I want to be loved, be still and feel free. It's not easy for me, a square peg in a round hole. I don't always belong, I won't fit in your mold, but please don't give up, don't think this is my hope. I know I need help, need to believe, learn to cope. At the end of the day, when we all close our eyes, I try to work on my lows and remember my highs. Will tomorrow be better? Will it be positive growth? That's not my question to answer, it has to come from us both. I want to feel better, laugh often, or just smile. So I hope you can help me. I'm not just a file. I'm a person, a daughter, and I'm screaming for help. Just understand I'm a work in progress who struggles to do for herself. This is me in the rarest of forms. I can't pretend to be someone else. I won't accept less. I know what I am worth. Do you? Take this walk with me. I just need to feel like you want to, not because you have to. Just because you're struggling doesn't mean you are failing. Every great success requires some type of struggle to get there. This is for everyone who struggles just like me.
Wow. Very, very powerful piece. As you can all imagine, it's a little hard for me to talk after listening to my daughter be so emotionally vulnerable for our audience. So I thank you all for listening. So next we have coming up to the mic, it would be Vicki Levesque, human rights advocate, writer who also focuses on the area of housing administration or housing discrimination, sorry about that, and sexuality and disability. And she will be performing a reading for us today. So Vicki, if we can have you come up to the stage.
Here I come. I'm coming. All right, y'all. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that, but I will do my best. I have a little secret for y'all. I'm a superhero. Now, what I mean is, I don't have, flying abilities, and I checked, and I still can't run very fast. Tried that. Didn't really figure it out. What I mean is, I spent a long time being silent about how I felt, about how the world affects me and makes me feel less than and worthless and in a lot of pain. I've heard things said to me that would shock you, such as, if I was in a wheelchair like you, I would kill myself. I don't know how you do it. You're so brave just for getting out of bed. You're an inspiration, not for the work you do, ma'am, but for the fact that you don't sit in your room crying out to God how he could have done you so wrong. Now, I don't believe in God, so that wouldn't do much for me. What I mean is, I have a voice, and one day, about 6 months ago, I decided to use that voice to speak my needs, and unfortunately, I was not listened to by the most powerful man in our province. In fact, I was shut down and walked away from in the middle of my sentence. That little discussion, shall we call it, was heard around the province by 21,000 people, because I was lucky enough to have it filmed. And from there, I realized, hey, wait a minute, people actually want to listen to me. People understand I am not alone. So I have a voice. My voice is my superpower, and despite how many people tried to silence it, mostly men, not only the highest, most powerful man in the province, but the man who touched my body and used me when I asked her to stop, who hurt me, who made me feel worthless. And I finally used that voice to tell my story. He didn't listen to me then, but God damn it, you're gonna listen to me now. And what happened was not right. It was not just. And if people have to speak up so that people know this is happening. Now, I can't do it alone. Even Wonder Woman needed the Justice League. So I'm begging you to join me, because this cape is very heavy and I am tired and I just need help. So as much as I'm willing to fight for you, you have to fight with me and for me, and together we can all be superheroes and make the world a better place. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Vicky. So next we have a multiple disciplinary artist, Josh Dunn, coming up to the stage. Josh lives with cerebral palsy and has just debuted his film, Our Hearts Aren't Disabled, that screened here last night at the BAAFF Festival. So we wanted to have him come out. He's going to be performing some of his poetry with us. So Josh, if we could have you join us here on the stage. Nice coat.
I almost whacked you. Sorry about that. I almost missed the mic. There we go. Now you can hear me. How about a big hand for Ryan and Ryan's daughter and Vicky? What a job, eh? Yeah, it's some tough stuff for sure. I'm really honored to be on this show. I think you're going to hear really diverse voices and lots of talent. So I'm going to jump right to it. I'm doing a longer form set. I have 3 pieces for you. This first one is kind of about the nature of power. And I often find that in our society, the wrong people seem to get in power, both in places large and small. So this is my reaction to that. This is called Power Corrupts Most People. Beware the crooked in power. We see it from the top down. The murderous oligarchy who print the money and rule the world with a nuclear fist. But I'm not so sure it doesn't also swell up from the most hateful impulses of the most pitiful man who would strike his better half at the slightest disagreement. The world is ablaze in revolution. Its tolerance for the evil of the badge has run out. Blue has killed black without just cause too many times, and we have all had enough. Maybe blue needs to lose its badge so that it can no longer fire its bullets in bigotry. My own communication with the crooked has been far less dire. They have typically smiled and told me, "You can have some charity, but you will not have a dignified life." Supposed friends have said, "You had better date someone with your condition." If you can only see my cerebral palsy, you are far more of a Frankenstein than I could ever be. The government keeps me alive, but without the leftovers from my family, I would be malnourished to the bone. And on the rare occasion my artistic merit is noticed, I am scaled back worse than someone who is able to work. I am shown more kindness and perhaps more charity than nearly anyone in my shoes. But those shoes have holes, and I'm not so sure a life of charity is either full or free. And then so many have denied my worth, armed only with stupidity, insecurity, bigotry, and the misery of their own failures. They tell me I am not good enough, or that I just look too strange. Well, I scream with unwavering conviction, I am more than good enough, and I look damn fine. I will have my due. I seek not riches, but I demand respect and the dignity of a full life. If you petty judges will not give it to me, I will take it and obliterate all your foolish rulings. I can't be a mystic alone. My feet are planted on planet Earth. Some people can handle power, so please step aside and let us make the world a better place. Thank you so much for the applause, folks. I really needed a drink of water. The old dry mouth from the nerves. This next piece is it's me, right? And I don't know if those of you are familiar with the tarot deck, and I'm probably saying this wrong. I pronounce it Hierophant, but, I say chlamydia, you say chlamydia. I'm not sure if I got it exactly, but the Hierophant talks about mystic traditions and stuff like this. But I'm kind of a Hierophant as applies to the arts. So this is called the Artistic Hierophant. I grew up, thanks. Word. I grew up with a lot of love, but almost no cultural capital. I didn't know the great things. Humanity's finest achievements were alien to me. Our best films, music, and books completely eluded me. I wasn't hip to anything beyond the flavor of the day. I rooted for Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, but I never knew Charlie Chaplin innovated comedy on screen. I heard Mariah Carey and John Cougar's hits, but I never heard Nina Simone sing or anyone play Bach's Baroque masterpieces. I started to get curious in my mid-teens. I rolled with older cats who were really good to me, but I think I tugged at their heartstrings more than I satisfied their need for companionship. I was a suicidal kid who didn't know much. Still, I got introduced to dark beer, the NASCAD fashion of layering, and a ton of culture. I remember thinking, I wish I knew what good music was. Then I did the King's thing. I learned the thousands of years of the great ideas of Western civilization. You know, all that jive by sad old white dead guys. I learned that I hated philosophy unless it is expressed with rhythm and clarity and the compassionate morality necessary to ease the world's injustices. I don't care about the history of the tradition or its deconstruction. Most of it doesn't speak to what moves me. And if you really think about it, that subjective old philosophy is not hard science. It is the opinions of those sad old white dead guys masquerading as truth. I wanted desperately to make my own mark and leave the dead musings of Hegel and Kant and Foucault and all the rest of them in the dust. Most people take courses, but I just grabbed the microphone. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I wasn't going to learn much from anyone who knew just a bit more than me. I took class by watching the best who ever did it. Those so-called philosophers bored me to tears, but when I saw the Seven Samurai, it was a mystical experience. I was still a suicidal kid, but Kurosawa made me feel better. When the arts get it right, you feel the human condition in your bones, and it leaves its imprint on your soul. Experts can espouse theories all they want, but when something makes you feel, its truth stays in your muscle memory forever. So I began a different kind of study, one of films, literature, and music. I needed something that provoked more than my intellect. I didn't need it mediated through some mediocre professor, even though the professor may be a great deal more expert than me. I needed the chance to experience the masterpieces firsthand and the freedom to feel their impact without coercion. And oh yeah, I still want to make my own mark. I want you to remember me for the unique way I told the truth, that accessibility means more than just access to physical spaces. I want you to feel in your gut what it means to be poor and lonesome and struggle with your health and to struggle even harder for dignity. But when it comes to my legacy, I want to make you feel the way Bach and Nina Simone and Seinfeld and Dostoevsky and Arundhati Roy and countless others make me feel. I just want to measure up to my heroes and be able to stand beside them. If it wasn't for that applause, I'd be awful thirsty. Thanks so much, guys. I got one more piece for you. This is the longest one of the bunch and perhaps the most important. Oh, and one little caveat there. When I was calling Seinfeld, I'm not such a... Jerry Seinfeld doesn't really float my boat himself, but the show, I think the show was a masterpiece. So that's what I was talking about. Anyway, Jerry's good enough, I guess. But so he's all right. This last piece, I did a songwriter circle last year at BAAFF. I did some poems and I emceed and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say I was at my lowest point, but I was at a really, really low point, and I didn't think things were going to turn around, but they have extremely turned around for me in a positive way. So I'm glad you're happy about that too. So I'd like you to know, and I'd like you to consider for yourself if you're having a bad time. This is called What a Difference a Year Can Make. The title of this piece is no trite cliche for me. A year ago, I emceed a virtual songwriter circle, playing to the laughter in my own head. I think I did a pretty good job, but you can check the BAAFF website and see for yourself. My poems were incisive, but my pain cut way deeper. I had just been told, after a couple weeks' deliberation, that I was indeed too disabled to be a boyfriend. I know cerebral palsy is no small thing, but don't you think, after announcing that I was more disabled than you thought, and I made abundantly clear how terrible that made me feel, you could have said, I just don't think I'm ready to date, instead of, geez, Josh, you really are too disabled for me. I wasn't terribly hung up on that particular relationship, but I was wild about the audacity of the insult, and even more miserable about this seemingly unbreakable pattern in my life. If no one could love you that way for over 20 years, how would you feel? Maybe it's a misplaced emphasis. Everyone has had troubles of the heart. but the vast majority of people have not been told they are too disabled to date. Unrequited love is why I became an artist. I had to focus on other things, and I had to sublimate my own self-loathing. Yeah, a great book, film, or piece of music were my most profound comforts. Unrequited love is why I'm here today, but it's also why I almost wasn't. Our pains can mold us, and we can rise like the phoenix, but the flame that fuels our resurrection can also burn us alive. It doesn't matter if I become as good as Van Gogh. I don't want a life without that love. And even if I did become as good as Van Gogh, well, he sliced off his ear and fatally shot himself 2 years later. There's a reason they tell kids not to play with matches. That flame gets awful hot. And it did almost burn me alive. That particular rejection meant nothing to me. But after 20 years of more or less the same, I needed to make sure that would be the last. I went public with my feelings. Many rallied to support me, and a few made me irate with their dogmatic judgments and dime store diagnoses. I am unapologetically an individual, and you will never have your finger on my pulse. I was after a peaceful end, but not one so quick that we couldn't say goodbye. I even told the police to relax. Be cool, constables. I'm not about to strike the final blow. I wanted a loving euthanasia, surrounded by my dear ones, so that I could transition to a world I hoped would be better. And this piecemeal goodbye seemed so safe to me. I could change my mind at any time. But not enough people agreed with me. And then I realized the litany of supposed experts that would have to sign off on my wishes would require a patience for bureaucracy that I don't have. So I started to meditate. That first session was so hard. My spirit was blurry and out of focus, but it gradually came back in alignment, and I slowly got stronger. The pain of my denial still burned, but it wasn't as scalding. I begged God to let me have the love I needed, and God answered me in 6 months' time. He moved a lot faster than those silly doctors would have taken. I'm sure I'd still be waiting to be seen. It's more than I hoped for. And then some. With you in my corner, I feel like I can do anything, and I will if I have the time. Now, I want to live, and I hope I get a good long crack at it, because there's many things that needs changing, and there are marvelous times to be had. I pray I can give you all the love and support you need and help your dreams come true. To those who question, what if this union were to end? I'd answer, I hope it doesn't. But should that come to pass, I will be devastated, but I will be so grateful for the chance I got to live my happiest moments. At least I got a shot that was real. In the meantime, I'm going to keep living these happiest moments, doing the best work I've ever done, and having a greater life than I could have ever thought possible. For now, I could fan the flame, use its heat as fuel, and if it starts to get a bit hot, well, I'll just give it a gentle blow and guide its light so I can be the phoenix I am supposed to be. So listen, if you are at the end of your rope, please, please don't kick that chair away until your wings are fully grown. If sweet fortune could turn around for this Quasimodo, goddamn it, you got a shot too. Master the flame inside. It's there to spur you on. If it starts to burn, breathe gently so that it doesn't consume you, because you just never know where you might be in a year's time. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show, and take it away, Ryan. Tell them what's next.
We want to thank Josh for coming up and blessing us with those beautiful poems that he did. So next we have Guy Lee Johnson coming up to give us a presentation of some of her poetry work. This is a very good artist. I don't have a lot of information, so I would like you to come up and give a little bit of information of your own background. So if we could have you come up to the stage right now, that would be wonderful. And let's give a big round of applause. Come on now.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here with you today. In short, I will just say I am a community advocate, a spoken word artist, and a published author. And the poem that I'm going to do tonight, I actually just recently wrote, and I thought that it would be fitting for this evening. So bear with me as it's very new, and this is my first time performing it. And it's called Visibly Invisible. You see me, but you don't. I want you to, but you won't. Because to look within the creases of my black skin would expose tarnishes of hopelessness from years of hidden brokenness I've kept inside, wept and dried, because the strong black woman doesn't break. What the world gives, she can take. Immune to hate, carrying the baggage as fate in which none of you can relate. Asking the Lord for a clean slate just to paint. Words that trigger me enough to feel lost. Can't go to therapy without the cost. So I expose my deepest fears in poems that give me a sense of validation and peace. Because I always wonder what you would think if you knew the real me. Beyond the color of my skin, where the trauma seeps and invades my body like a disease. One that's hard to fight, got me up all night contemplating life. The stigma is loud, so we suffer in silence, hiding what we feel to conceal experiences that stripped us of innocence and hope. You know the story of the rope, it would hurt less if you let go. I once heard a quote that said, if a flower doesn't grow, we don't blame the flower, we blame the environment. When Black people struggle, we blame Black people instead of the environment provided. Have you ever walked into a doctor's office begging for help only to be turned away? All because they say you look okay, as they send you back to work the next day. Because you thrive in productivity as a form of escape, only this time the escape has kept you awake. Lack of sleep, eyes swelled, puffy and dark, as you embark on a journey of hallucination and fear, as an episode of psychosis is near, and the city has no resources that are culturally relevant enough to relate. How much pain can Black women take before they break? Black doesn't crack, right? What if I told you the pieces are too small to depict? What if I told you the words like, I am sick? Would the stigma stick? Or for once, could you see beyond my Blackness to the darkness that invades the parts of me I want to save, visibly invisible? Mental illness is not a myth. I seek healing through my gift. Physically, you see me and I show up well. But if you could see beneath the surface, you would see that my mind's in hell. Through these words, I try and rebel, but only time will tell. A poem that I always like to end with is called Lotus Flower. And to know what a lotus flower is, it's a beautiful flower that grows in the darkest and swampiest waters. So it's kind of just about believing in yourself, regardless of your environment and the things that you are surrounded by, and tapping into your inner beauty. Lotus Flower. I am the significance to your heart. Never falling apart, I connect with your mind. With both combined, my soul bleeds your purity. My mind craves your growth. I emerge from the depths of dirt. Far from hurt, I bloom into a beauty unimaginable, almost impossible flower. Though the soil I came from is in the slaying of a swamp, still I rise. I rise into a soul that streams a great significance of spreading strength spiritually. The lotus flower I am, the dirty seed I used to be, doesn't define me. What defines me is the state I'm in after surviving the struggle. You see, it's not where you come from, it's where you end up. Some of the ugliest places create the prettiest people from the inside out. Lotus Flower. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. That was beautiful. So our next artist is Angela Bowden, who will be coming to us remotely. So we'll have her queued up on the screen here. She's an African Nova Scotian author, TEDx speaker, writer, poet, and community activist. So we'll cue to her now.
Good evening, everyone. And let me start by saying I am honored to be able to be here to share with you in such a vulnerable space. Let me say thank you to Ryan, Savannah, Victoria, Josh, and Guy Lee. I'm sitting here and I really need to take a moment because the words that you spoke here this evening, they connected because we are all connected through all of our abilities. I have a story, like all of us, no greater or no worse than the next, but a story of my mental breakdown and the confusion associated with it. My name is previously introduced as Angela Bowden, and I identify as an African Nova Scotian woman living with multiple abilities and diagnosed in 2016 with multiple mental health labels. Personally, I really struggled putting me and disabilities in the same sentence, partly because I felt it diminished me in all of my abilities. But even more importantly than that, I was a strong Black woman. And so we didn't do the whole mental health disabilities or breakdowns or therapists. We had no time for any of that nonsense. And by nonsense, I mean depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, grief. Yeah, we weren't doing any of that. We did everything but that because that was an inconvenience to all of the other things that we had to take care of. So we laughed it off, put on a brave face, and sucked it up. I cried every single day, but it was none harder than those before me. My heart ached so bad, but it paled in comparison to every woman that paved the way. My mind reeled with terror and confusion. I wondered, however did those slave mothers find the strength to carry on? My soul begged out for mercy, and yet I was living mercy in all the fruits of my ancestors' labor. I should be grateful. I mean, after all, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. They survived far worse than me. So, in toxic Black femininity language, that meant that I should suck it up. Judgment, comparison, and these toxic and yet in their time adaptive messages of survival. I inherited. This now became the voice that I rehearsed over and over and over again. But what happens when you forget that script? I'm going to read a poem from my book, Unspoken Truth. It's called The Headliner. I am a comedian by trauma's design. Pain makes you smarter. That's my opening line. And I hail from the kings and queens of comedy. See, you learn by pain what not to do again, and you develop a song that you carefully sing with the best choreographers who teach you the steps to dance in perfect cadence. Yes, sir, we all learned that dance like the electric slide. I am an actress by trauma's design. My leading lady performance cannot be outshined. I can mimic any character, I can put on any face and conceal all the pain and abuse of my race. It's a universal script that resilience has made. No audition required. There's daily live rehearsals. I am a magician by trauma's design. I can magically erase the pain of my time. No, wait. I'm sorry. That's the comedian's line, because that is a joke that trauma designed. I am a comedian by trauma's design. Wait, sorry. What was my line? See, the problem with denial, resistance, and avoidance is that one day you will forget your lines. But trauma, nor its back up disabilities, forget theirs. So now you've used up all your get out of jail free cards and you're stuck. Now what? You haven't a clue how to use your suck it up tool to break free. You used it all up. You're bankrupt. Now you're face to face with the creditors of your mental health, and they're coming to collect. The Beast, Patricia, and Speedy. Those are the names I gave to my uninvited house guests. MDD, or major depressive disorder, PTSD, and anxiety. But not right away, because in the beginning I was too busy denying that they even existed. Eventually I learned that if I named them, then they were real. And if they were real, then I knew that I could deal with them. Now, I didn't care much for these house guests, and I tried everything to lock them out and hide from them. But all the laying under the blankets of isolation in the world didn't deter them. They were here to stay. I had to get used to living with them and the stigma that went along with it. I built a team of therapy, family, and friend support, and I leaned into my gifts as a poet, a writer, and a speaker, and I allowed my multiple abilities to reclaim Angie from under that rubble. It's another poem I wrote to help me through this called Uninvited Guests. I have some unwanted house guests. They arrived at my house, and I've tried everything, and I mean everything, to get them out. I've tried to be patient, but that didn't work. I tried to be nice, but it's tough when they're jerks. They ransack my temple without grace or mercy, while my anger is building and I want to curse. See, because I had enough. I want my house back. So I got to play tough. So I was feeling all brave, even though I was outnumbered. But hey, this is my house, I said to myself, remember? And I rushed without thinking. I must have been drinking because I laid in bed and didn't give them water or food. I embarrassed them in public. I was nasty and rude. I forced them up early when they barely had sleep. And I made up rules, no crying, when I knew they needed to weep. I set expectations that they couldn't meet. And I pushed, and I pushed, and I pushed. And then finally, they didn't leave. Nope, they didn't. And in fact, I may got them angry because they're talking back. A beast called depression just jumped on my chest. He said, listen here, woman, your soul needs some rest. And I'm tired of you fighting our right to be tired. So from here on out, Superwoman, you're fired. And furthermore, we need to talk about your manners. Do I look like I want to do something that's not in your planner? And he's right. He's right. And I thought about the hostess I've been. And I'm not saying now that depression and me are best friends, but I just see him differently. And I respect where he's been. But this little wench who just jumped on my back is Patricia, or PTSD, in fact. And I wouldn't mind her so much. She's just so hard to predict. So many things make her tick. So many smells make her sick. So many sounds bring her hell. So many shows make her click. And her mind is like that remote, flipping about, scene to scene, mad to mean, dirty to clean, reels turning quickly like a well-oiled machine. And this bitch is mean when you force her to see her pain through your eyes. And you don't validate her, you feed her denial and lies and ignore all her cries. And do you even know how many times she has died? Every time she clicked, every time she got sick, every time a smell brought her hell, I predict. When you know her whole story, you won't judge her arrival. When she visits, she needs safety. It's part of her survival. So take her to nature to breathe some deep breaths in. Remind her present is not where she's been. And no, we are far from being besties, but I feel okay again. I only have a problem with one other guest. And that girl, I just need to straight up address. Because, child, that chick's life is a total hot mess. And she's steady on my nerves anyway. She won't sit still. She won't stay silent. She won't stand up. Sometimes she's violent. She has this list of things that drive her crazy, and living like her is like driving Miss Daisy, and I'm Morgan Freeman just riding along while she passes every thought and ponders, what's wrong? Oh, how I long to break free from anxiety some. But I know I'm outnumbered, and they become good company. They're loyal at least. And so I must speak for Patricia, for Speedy, and for the Beast. Our story, our voices, narrated by me. Sorry I didn't listen the first time you tried, and I covered my ears when I heard you cry. I'm sorry for the many times I watched your soul die, but I maintained my pride behind strength. That's a lie. I'm sorry I wasn't the hostess with the mostest, but this is the closest I have ever been to me. Comedy can be a very useful tool to cope or soothe a variety of circumstances, as is music and poetry and art. And along with these tools of joy, we need to examine our resilience and realign it with the temporary payment that resilience was meant to be. Living with mental health different abilities required that I named it. And in my case, I took it literally. And to own it. This was the tricky part, especially with all of the judgments. So it's a journey for some. Then you need to harness it. You need to learn how to control it. And it doesn't matter who did what before me or the stigmas. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. No one defines your abilities. I am still Angie. And I allow my abilities to stand up and speak for themselves. And it also creates space for others to be seen and allow their abilities to speak for themselves. Resilience is a tool and it's not the answer, but festivals like this is the answer. Opportunities for artists to share in their connectivity and their abilities is the answer. Art is a gateway for all abilities. And ironically, the ones that we stigmatize as being disabled are the ones that usually bear the most fruit. Thank you so much for inviting me. Let us continue to connect all of our abilities by celebrating the significant contributions of those members that society would have you believe belong in the margin. Those gifted individuals are the ones that are going to help this world understand what it means to live beyond the confines of this normalization and step individually into your greatness. Thank you.
Wow. Very, very powerful. Thank you. Thank you, Angela. So next up, we have Anna Quan, who is a poet, novelist, and visual artist. She usually likes to make painting and animation films about her poems. So we can have Anna join us on stage.
I actually also introduce myself usually as a middle-aged, mixed-race woman. Mad being a term that some people with psychiatric histories have taken back, just as the queer community has taken back the term queer from people who would use it against them. Let me take this off, sorry. The first poem is called Welcome Halifax. I wrote it for Poetry in Motion, which is, if you've seen poetry on the transit buses, I wrote it for that, but it wasn't accepted, but I'm going to read it anyway, because I kind of like it. Welcome Halifax. This city, riot, explosion, and colonization, segregation, and appropriation, but also a sea-circled, tree-veined, garden-hearted welcome. Despite your mean-eyed past, your hospitality's famous. Open your arms and gather us in. The people here before you, those you shoved to your impoverished edges, kept out of your colleges, chambers, and country clubs, have been waiting to embrace you with their own inviolable welcome. Don't fail us this time, city. I hope Halifax is listening. Thank you. The next one is called Missing Meds, and it's about my kind of mixed relationship with my medication. And there's a couple mentioned. One's an antipsychotic, one's an antidepressant in this poem. So, Missing Meds. Wake, stretch, wash, prayers, breakfast, meds. That's how it's supposed to go. Instead, I tumble out of bed and have 2 cups of coffee, 1 for each eye, check my phone, then eat and shower and leave for the coffee shop to write poems. So often I forget the tiny flying saucer of aripiprazole that's meant to float across my twilight moodscape, hover over each wandering thought in its drunken rowboat, abducting, then beaming it back to me, the cleaner, brighter, sober second version of itself. And then at night, when I am fallen from the perch of day, still dressed into my unmade bed, I often wonder if I took a sertraline, the little capsule that's half yellow and half white, like me, which should contain me calmly bobbing in the sea of dreams to be rescued in the morning by kindly alien hands. When am I not in transit, caught in the terrifying safety of well-meaning pharmacy? Only when I am errant, absent, missing from my meds, and only then by accident or laziness, because I also fear what lies outside the electric fence, the grassy freedom where the endless winds of madness blow. The next one is called In the Brain Swept Clean of Hope, and it's in this little book called Body Parts that was published this year. In the brain swept clean of hope. I've been sicker than this. In the old days, I would have died 5 times from a sore throat, ear infection, broken heart, boredom, and good hygiene. In the brain swept clean of hope, when the rain comes, there's nothing to make mud from. The lightning, delicately forking over the kitchen table, has nothing to illuminate. Thunder rumbles across dinner plates, impotent as a spoonful of peas. I sit under a bare light bulb, waiting for the interrogation. It never comes. Sometimes the power goes out and it's a relief. The kitchen is still a dangerous place in the dark where everything is hidden. I've been sicker than this, but in the brain swept clean of hope, the walls begin to close in, knives fall out of drawers, and the stove lights itself. I could squeeze past the fridge and make a run for it, but where else is there to go? Even the weather's inside. Okay. Thanks. You don't have to clap after each one. It helps, but you don't have to. The next one's called Easter Island. It's from a little collection that I wrote called Half Empty. It's about loneliness, basically. My loneliness stands in me like an eyeless statue on a grassy island, stone heads without thoughts. They were monuments once to kings now discarded by time. Emptiness reigns, imperishable, even over something this solid. This one is from a collection that I published myself called I Had a Pure Heart Once, the collection is called Mental Illness Poems, and it's called I Had a Pure Heart Once. I had a pure heart once, like the moon's silver disk floating among the trees, like something I saw under a microscope once, like the Encyclopedia Britannica. My heart dissolved like Alka-Seltzer, in its place old orange peel, hard, dry, and hollow. I gave it away for real estate, an empty parking lot, and a comb harmonica. Now I sit and buzz a melancholy tune while a jet plane full of holy passengers floats by me. I wave at them as they wink past, darkness sucking at my eyelids. I can't I can't see if I'm going over time. Is anyone I'm okay? Okay. This one is called Turning. It was published on the Understory website, which still exists, but Understory I don't think is publishing any longer. Turning. It's grief, all right. The same burning arrow through the heart's gills, the same stone weight of emptiness, loss of words, of what to do, of a place that doesn't ache, the way the living room, the bedroom, and the kitchen ache. We are accomplices to our own undoing. Every time we flip a switch, we flinch. Each cup of tea, each text, a word burning in the air. Will we ever heal again? Our fly-covered hopes, the dreams we stole from others, our dreams, are kindling for the great disaster. We scratch at chimneys, that's the smoke that bleeds from them, our blood. Words can't heal this, they never could. But if we turn as one, a murmuration or a school of herring, we might staunch the wound and quench the burning. The things that creature bodies know, we need each other. The things that words together know, they cannot heal us, but they can turn us. One mind in many bodies, a wise mindlessness or a mindful bodiness, towards the cool places where undying grace is. Have a drink. At the beginning of COVID, I wrote some poems as part of a fundraiser for the Canadian Mental Health Association Halifax Dartmouth branch, which is an organization quite close to my heart. And this one is called Turtle, and basically it's about Gus the turtle. Someone wanted a turtle poem, so I wrote this one. What do you love, turtle? After so long, do you remember the way an elephant does? Or does life have a way of disappearing behind you? The past rolled up neatly as a rug behind your ancient tail. Slow as a stone with legs, you wander out of the hut where your lettuce and apple slices lie uneaten, abandoned for a sweet tickle under the chin from a woman old enough to be your great-granddaughter. She whispers your name and tells you you are your own island, your own continent, virile as Genghis Khan with your children scattered over the earth like candy. But you don't remember their making, only now, soft fingers brushing your skin that's hard and dry as the Sahara. So I sometimes read poems like that because I think, I'm a person who writes about my own experience of madness or psychiatric history. I write about a lot of things, but I also write about, political things, but I also write about turtles and flowers. And so just because I have disabilities doesn't mean I have to write only about that. I hope you will agree with that. This is another one from this little book. It's called I Wrote a Poem No One Else Could See. It had horns and floated, a cloud of mosquitoes between my ears, grooming itself with a long tongue. It told me of its life before me as the pet of a court jester, sporting a frilly collar, wobbly jowls, and a sloppy grin. The endless slapstick bored it to tears, which was against the terms of its contract. It was let go and wandered homeless until I took it in. Not that it thanked me. It's temporary, it said. I'm moving on as soon as you get your shit together. I feel like I'm like, I don't know, my mouth is getting sore, so I'll just finish reading the last couple poems. This one's called Cliff. It's a poem that was first published or broadcast by the CBC as part of their Creators Network. And I did some paintings that go with it. Cliff. I like my madness. It keeps me sane when the world walks backwards off a cliff while taking a selfie. I like it when I tell people I'm mad and you can see they don't know what to say and are a little afraid. Not because I'm in favor of promoting fear, especially fear of madness, but because I like it when people don't know what to say. Not that it makes them listen any better. In fact, I can see them closing like oysters all around me. No, it's because then I can say whatever I want as they shut up and shut down and back away, though I wave and shout over that same cliff, the one at the edge of what it means to be human. Okay. I'll read one more short one. This one was a poetry in motion poem on the Metro Transit bus. It's called Poem for Georgia, and it was also part of the fundraiser that I did for CMHA, Halifax Dartmouth. Poem for Georgia. When we reach for things and find the ocean, piping plovers the morning after storm, zigzagging over the rain-dark sand, whales plunging and rising like the surf itself, we find ourselves in flight over the very things we grasped at, objects of our isolation, microscopic now and far apart, as we bank and come to light, wingtips touching. Thank you.
And let's give a big hand for all of our artists who have performed for us so far. All right, we've reached our last performer. Goes by the name of L. Jones, someone who I've known for a bit of time now. Poet, professor, community activist, someone who fights for justice for other people. So we'll call L to the stage.
Good evening. Peace, everybody. Thank you so much, Ryan, for all your work putting together this festival, and to Krista and the many people I know are in the background. I'm going to pre-thank our interpreter. I didn't give you poems, and I'm very sorry because I know you're going to be translating very fast. So we really respect your work and making everything accessible. Thank you very much to all the other poets and showing us that poetry is everything and everywhere. It doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to be in poem form. So we got a really, really beautiful display tonight of all the different voices and ways people present themselves. So thank you. This first poem, the last year I've been really struggling with the impacts of patriarchal violence on my life. So I'm going to do this poem. I might mess it up. Everybody knew in Chicago. Everybody knew. When that limo pulled up outside the junior high school and nobody stopped it, nobody told. Some shoulders were shrugged and a couple eyes rolled. You know young girls these days. Their bodies look so old. But it was hidden in plain sight. Everybody seen. Age ain't nothing but a number. We all know what that means, but he was a powerful man and they were just teens. And even worse, they were black. So we laughed while he peed. She should have moved out of the way, we believed. He made white men money, so he didn't even lose his deal. Someone's meal ticket, so who cares how they feel? Collateral damage was all that black girls could be. Even Aaliyah didn't matter. And she was a star. If it was one little white girl, he'd have been behind bars, but their skin was too dark, so they got in his car, he took them shopping, and what happens after, that's just how things are. People went to that studio, saw girls in those rooms, and they closed the doors on it, but everybody knew, still booked him for concerts and bought his music on iTunes. Did we run up on his studio? On his mansion? On the streets? Nah, people lined up outside the court saying R. Kelly should be free, and there were black women defending him as far as I can see. What does that say about what we've been conditioned to be? Did we learn that behind closed doors of our own families? So we let him get away with saying, nah, that wasn't me. And those little black girls, they can't sing or make a beat. So he went on down the line, choosing his next fresh meat. Don't act like this is new. Don't act like you're surprised. We all know 13-year-old girls with 25-year-old guys. We all know outside the group homes, the cars wait in lines. We all know predators at the mall eyeing girls up for size. We all know workers traffic girls right from the colored home. If that was one little white girl, those names would be known. If it was dozens of white girls, it would be written on the sky. But it's just little girls from the hood, so it passes us by, and if his abuser finds Christ, well, then he's forgiven. She's still being shamed for the pain that she's living, pillar of the community, they'll say of him, now that he's saved. Ruin, disgrace will be written on her grave because everybody knows. They just put it on us. How you out here looking so good with those tight jeans on your butt? How you dancing up on Drake with that grown woman bust? Why you get in that car if you wasn't a slut? You must have known, must have wanted, you're practically adult. And we're called ratchet bitches, hoes, or a mutt, and we only have value if someone gets a cut. It's not like it's a secret. It isn't undercovers. If people have anything to say, they mostly blame the mothers, maybe blame the culture, anybody but the rapist. Even in our homes, we're supposed to be the safest. In our schools and in our churches where nobody can save us, all around society because everybody hates us or at least just disregards us, expects us just to take it. So I seen 12-year-olds in foster care with her abuser's baby. I saw the ads go up on Backpage and her pimp in a Mercedes, and my own grandmother told me, just remember, you're a lady. When he leaves you, disrespects you, when he runs around or hits. And I know we're living out the legacies of the slave ships. Sapphires and Jezebel bear breasts and winding hips, so when they rape us in this century, we're just playing out the script, a script that everybody knows. And we all will know again. But there'll still be powerless black girls and rich, powerful men, and what will we say then? We'll stay quiet as a mouse. I mean, there was a pussy-grabbing president right in the White House. There's a rapist on the Supreme Court, and they never kicked him out. Don't think it's just black men we never say a word about, and we can shout for young black girls. Make films or say Me Too, but please don't act surprised. Because everybody knew. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna do 2 more poems. This poem, I never used to do this poem, and now I'm kind of into doing it. It's stories from the people I work with in prison with their permission. T comes into prison a proud white supremacist. He's got swastikas tattooed on his neck and KKK on the knuckles on his fist. In the last prison he was in, there's a guy he already killed. But there's a black guy on the range, and somehow they start to chill. He says, just cover that shit up around me if we're going to coexist, and they're both doing life over blood that they have spilled, and slowly, somehow, their friendship starts to build. Well, T gets transferred out, and from the depths, he sends a letter. Thank you for your friendship for helping me be better. He says, my sister was gang raped at a party by black guys, and I decided every single black guy was the same in my eyes. I was so angry. My hate was twisting me inside. Thank you for showing me another way. Thank you for saving me. If we've never struggled to make a change, what do we know of bravery? What do we know of transformation in these places where we're breaking people down? Dee is waiting in the hall. It's been 7 or 8 months now. One day he loses it in his cell and starts trashing everything around, and then he hears a knock. And he thinks, what now? I can't take any more. This pressure has to stop. And a hand reaches through his slot. And Dee's on edge, thinking it's someone here to take a shot. The guy's high up in a gang, a soldier at the top, but he opens up his fist. And there's a jade and black crucifix. And all he says is simply, I thought you needed this. What do we know of human kindness and the places it exists when we sentence people to life and say their humanity's eclipsed, and we send them behind the walls and condemn them to the abyss? And massacre toasts bread and hides it in the fridge. He grew up on a remote reserve with no food when he was a kid. Captain Crunch at Christmas is what his mother knew of gifts, and uncles struggling with their own addictions who taught him how to fix when residential schools left generations broke in bits. And the other guys bug him now, because he only owns one lime green pair of sweats. So when someone offers him $20, that's as good as it gets. They ask him to heat up butter in the microwave and throw it in a face, and he gets dragged off to solitary, but for him, it's not a waste because $20 is enough to get a couple weeks canteen. What do we know of desperation when our stomach's full when we go to sleep? What do we know of wounding where the trauma runs so deep and so we lock people down, never allowed out into the open? But the light gets through the cracks in the places that were broken, so many lives that disappear and their stories are unspoken. So we never hear of resilience, of creativity, of hoping. I'm reading Facebook and I see a status that touches me profoundly. I love my murderer friends. One of the women proclaims proudly and everyone reacts with horror and disgust. But she says, I spent years in with these women, the only ones I could trust, and I'm not going to throw them under the bus. I'm not going to abandon. You don't know what's inside people when you just judge them at random, and I know what she means. When murder is the worst label, when we couple it with love, it makes our judgments seem unstable. And so we condemn a woman, loving deeper than we're able, as if murderer and loved one could never be connected. What do we know of affection when we don't live together in oppression? Everything I know about forgiveness, it was prisoners taught the lesson. And I keep suggesting to a teenage prisoner that he go outside for exercise. You'll get sick, I tell him. You'll disappear inside depression. And finally, he tells me that a year after he'd been inside, he was let out in the yard and bent and touched a blade of grass. And then he overheard a conversation between guards. They said, that kid's been in so long, he's happy just to touch the ground. And after that, it was too hard, so he just stays on his range now. What do we know of freedom when we've never been held down? And there's a young Mi'kmaq man who calls me and tells me that he's fine. And then I link him to his mother and he starts crying on the line and he tells her he almost died because he drank hand sanitizer. What do we know of pain when numb's the only option for survival? And there are teenagers inside who are shaking on arrival. And I think that it's obscene that every courtroom has a Bible. And then we sentence human beings to places where if they're suicidal, they strip them of their clothes and throw them into solitary confinement. And once you get a record, that's a judgment that is final. There's no supports and you get out, so you're forced to repeat the cycle. What do we know of forgiveness while our vengeance still is primal? And there's so many minds going to waste, full of knowledge that is vital. Who knows if the cure for AIDS is in a mind that's sitting idle, and in spite of their situation, they're still maintaining their humanity. I host a radio show with prisoners and people complain about profanity. And I tell them music is the only thing that helps them keep their sanity. And actually, I say, we have people calling in from solitary confinement, so excuse them if they don't quite meet your standards of refinement. And they're assigned to jobs in sweatshops making products on consignment, or they're deprived of medication and you want them to be silent? What do you know of self-expression when you've never had to fight to write? And there are suicidal women forced to sleep without their mattresses, dehumanizing conditions seen as just everyday practices, and people talk of justice as if it's just a scale that balances. While families and communities are grieving all the absences, if we've never sat inside a cell, what do we possibly know of damages? But I've seen things come out of prison that I would call miraculous. Love, forgiveness, resilience, generosity, and thankfulness. What I know of being human comes from being a prison activist. So to all my people doing time, thank you for making me compassionate. Thank you, everybody. I was like, I'm gonna get this water, but I knocked it off. Okay, I never do this poem either. This is experimental night. I'll close with this one. I remind myself now of what I know to be true. For the times that I did what I was sure I couldn't do, and the times I got through what I couldn't get through, so I say it to you. We have been here before. There are days when I thought I could not weather the storm, and times when I knelt down and prayed to the Lord and cried out, I wish I had never been born, but our fields that are bare will be bursting with corn. There will be a new morn. The sun will descend. There are days when I swore I could not see an end, and days where just standing made my spine want to bend, and times when my faith feels like something outworn, and that which I built up is battered and torn, but it mends. It restores. And though there's a roar in our ears and eyelids like glue, there will come a day we look back and see all we outgrew, and that which has been will in time be again. And I call back to when I thought I could not climb from the floor, when the walls fell around and foundations like straw, and all my emotions are battered and raw, but we endure, and it improves. And I remind of this now: when you think you can't move, that the things that you doubted you'll find you have proved. So I say it to you. We crawl onto our knees. For every moment we thought that we'd no longer be, and there are welts on the boards from the scratches I scored, but I got to my feet and I walked out the door. So I tell myself now, when I can't take any more, that after rough seas there will be a shore, and the hurricane wind soon will soften into a breeze. All that is lost will wash up with the sea. After winter, the blossoms return to the tree. It will be, and the flowers will wilt. But everything broken can soon be rebuilt, and our cup will be filled with the water we spilled. And we think we're despairing, we find we have will, and our spirit will lift. We have seen it before. When our spirit was worn, breath will come to our lungs. There's a light we can see, and there's dirt under our nails from the ground that we clawed. There's tear tracks in our cheeks and a cramp in our jaw. Yes, we're sore, with nothing left over to spend. Yes, this world uses us up till we have nothing to lend, and there's days when we call out we can't find a friend. But when we thought we would fall, we somehow ascend, and we find in our inner well we still have water to pour. When we think we are empty, we find inner stores, and here at the core, then our spirit renews. And right now, though you feel you can't see your way through, I remind us all now what I know to be true. We have strength. Yes, we do. And though the length of the days makes us long for an end, there are gardens inside us our spirit will tend. And though the ground seems too hard and there's no seeds to sow, we will one day scent the flowers we couldn't feel grow. And it's slow, and we're scarred. We hardly know ourselves now because we've held up our guard, but soon enough in the darkness we will see a star. We will saw through our chains and break through the bars, and we'll glow. And into our sails we'll feel gentle winds blow, and each of our petals will be shining with dew. And though we're low now, this I know we can do, so I say it to you. We will get through again, and we'll look back forever and ever, amen. This will one day be a past that we hold in our view. There will be a light. We will see it break through. And though we feel broken down, we will all be renewed. So remind us all now, this I know to be true. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Really some amazing performance. Amazing. I know we have one final comment from Vicky. I know that she wanted to come up and bless the mic for a moment. So, Vicky, if you want to come up to the stage right here.
Okay. Blessing. I didn't know I was blessing anything. This is the first time the atheist has blessed something.
Not the religious thing. Bless. Vicky, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn around here. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, and anybody else, I don't know how you identify. I have something to say. We are here today to celebrate the gains that have made for disability rights, and that is something we should all be grateful and proud of. However, our premier, Mr. Houston, announced the day before yesterday, which happened to be my birthday, that he is taking disabled people to court to overturn the verdict that this province has discrimination against people with disabilities by forcing them to live in institutions. Now, I hear what you're saying, but Vicky, we have a housing crisis. You should be grateful to have a roof over your head, and I am. But in order to get that roof, I had to give up my autonomy, my dignity, my personhood, and had to sit down, shut up, and be grateful. I refuse to be grateful, to be treated like a second-class citizen. There are hundreds of people, just like you and me, locked away in institutions without a voice, who I've heard from every day, some of whom have no friends, who haven't left their house in 12 years because they can't get the help they need, so they're stuck inside. I've seen people go from bright, happy people who had everything to live for, who tell me now they want to die because their government has forgotten them and locks them away like animals instead of people. Mr. Houston, my question for you is this. I am a human being. I am one of your citizens. We are all citizens. Why don't you want me to be in the community? What are you scared of? And this is what I've come up with. You're scared of our voice. 25% of Nova Scotians identify as having a disability of some kind. That's a lot of people. And you want to silence us because you're afraid of what we can do and the changes we can make if we all speak up. I have a meeting with Mr. Houston on Monday, and I don't know what to say to you, sir, to make you believe that we are humans and that we are worthy of a home, a real home where I can eat what I wish, I can get up when I wish, I can go to bed when I wish, I can have my friends over at any time of day. I was at work. We're having a meeting in my bedroom because we could not find an accessible space because this city sucks for accessibility. I'm sorry, it just does. And my nurse said, visiting hours are over. You have to leave. You embarrassed me in front of my colleagues and made me feel little and like a scolded child. And the only reason they had to leave is not because of what we were doing, but because of where I live. My home is not my home. My home is a prison for many, many people who will never be heard, who die uncared for and unloved and forgotten. Well, I refuse to be silent anymore, and I beg you to call our premier either today or tomorrow or Monday and keep calling until he reverses his decision to take away the human rights of 25% of Nova Scotians. We spend this day acting like we have it all figured out and that things are getting better. But I'm telling you, right now, if the Premier gets his way, things will be much worse. And hundreds, if not thousands of people will be silenced and locked away with have a room to call their own. One they can't even put posters up if they use tax, or they can't, hang a certain curtain because, fire. And, there's so many barriers to my community that are not placed because of my disability, but because of the way society sees me and sees people like me. I implore you to call your politicians to get out in front of the Premier's office and say, enough is enough. These people deserve dignity and respect and are some of the most compassionate, kind people you will ever know, who are slowly becoming bitter and hurt because they feel like their society has forgotten them. Well, I'm here to tell you, you are not forgotten. You are loved. And I will fight with every fiber of my being to make sure that you get free. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you. Tonight, you've experienced a lot of people being able to express raw emotion through poetry, through messages that they have just displayed, calling out the government. So we want to thank everybody who tuned in, who was able to join us in studio today here. And I'm also going to do something off the cuff as well. I would like to bring Krista up. Yes, come up here. Yep. Krista's the one behind the scenes who's been organizing and putting everything together. This is our producer. So we want to thank you all for coming out and joining us today and watching us online. And we'll be here tomorrow again for some more amazing events. So stay tuned and yes, thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.